Awesome. Awesome. Listen, for here right now, I'm in San Antonio. We're going to talk to you about that in a minute. But I'm so excited to be here today. And let's get your teammates on. It's going to be powerful. It will be posted to our YouTube channel, of which we're really getting ready to promote in a massive way. So you'll probably notice behind me, I'm in a Mexican restaurant. So a little people walking behind me. Hopefully it doesn't make you too hungry. But we got a great. I'm getting ready to get on a plane coming home. I cannot wait to get home. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I've asked Zach today, just to take a couple of minutes to maybe set the tone for maybe some things that are going on and things that maybe Tim's been talking and his Tim's talk, just to what we see in the state of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome everyone. I'm excited to share with you guys today in Tim's absence. But for those of you that don't know or that might be interested in, Tim does a daily Tim Talks where he gives you basic understanding and highlights of the market, about what's going on, so that you can appear slightly intelligent when you're out there talking to folks around in your world. So as I was told a long time ago when I taught seventh grade science, I don't need to know everything. I just need to know a little bit more than the people I'm talking to. And so that's really important for you guys to understand that if you have, and I know Jody's used some things in the past where they pulls in headlines and you get some talking points for the day, and there's all kind of apps and things out there like that. But Tim does a great job pulling together pieces of information from all across the market and sending it out on WhatsApp, and he does it every day. So I think Kimberly's going to share that link for you guys if you want to get on there. If she doesn't share it now, we'll send it out in the WhatsApp groups afterwards. That might actually be easier. So if you're in a WhatsApp group that invited you to this event, you will get a link to the Tim Talks so you can join the message there if you want to. So, but long story short, I will put on my old man glasses so that I can read my screen, and I will tell you
Call
um,
them your smart
my
glasses.
smart glasses. I'm sorry. They bring the intelligence up for me. But markets are up in spite of the government shutdown. There's a lot of people watching closely to see how long that goes before it actually has an impact on what's going on in the stock market. Things are still very heavily weighted in the tech sector for all the ups. The underlying economy is showing signs of shrinkage, even though the market is showing growth. And so those have a tendency to be indicative of uh, impending correction, if you will. So our story right now at HGI of the circle of safety and moving away from risk is a great one to tell. Yes, we still have money under management options for people that need that. But it's a great time to go out and talk about it. I know that if you talk to the average investor that you might see at work or you might see on the street, they're going to tell you you're crazy. The market's going straight up, and their investments are flying straight north. But if you look broadly at institutional investors and people's whose job it is to not lose money, they have really gone more toward the conservative side of things, divested from some of the incredibly fast growing stocks in the tech sector. There are a lot of things that mirror the early dot-com boom and bust with what's going on right now. You've got an entirely new technology like there was then, and people buying into that one right after another. And at some point in time, it's kind of like walking away from a table in Vegas. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? You got to get up and get out
Is
of
that a
there. So
song?
it is, but I will not be singing this morning as much as I love Kenny Rogers. But so that's really what I want you guys to take from today is that get on Tim's talk, right? Get on his group where you can get access to this on a daily basis. Gives you some basic reading points and talks about those kind of things. But know that our story at HGI, which is the flight to safety, and make sure that our plans are not just good for now, but they're good for the long term, is a great time to be telling that story. So when you go out now and you're talking to people about the fact that the market's not going to keep going up forever and that they need to make sure that they're protected against the downside and those kind of things. Even if they don't buy from you or sit down with you now, when that happens, because it will, the experts have said, and so has history, what goes up must come down, including the stock market. So when it happens, you will more than likely garner some new clients and at least some credibility with the people that you're talking to, if you're new in this world. So I always recommend reading and understanding what's going on, but not at the risk of not growing your business and not talking about our flagship products that have all the guarantees against the downside. So good stuff coming your way today. I know Kimberly's got some things she's going to talk about in the end. We also have some other things that I heard Kimberly and Jody talking about just a few minutes ago. So try to make it well worth your time. But like I said, we'll send out the link to the Tim Talks WhatsApp group after we're done here.
Hey, James, I actually texted that to you. So if you could grab it from your text and put it in the chat, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Is Jody back?
Awesome. Yes, I'm here.
Oh, yay.
I've been here listening the whole time.
I thought you just
But
dropped
yeah,
off.
what I know is this. Who knows what's going to happen here? But I'll get my part out of the way so that we know we're okay right now. But I'm really excited to go over a couple of things with you, and then the fundamentals that Kelly's going to close with are going to be fantastic. But I want to talk about our product partnerships. You know, one of the things I think is our biggest strength is the great product providers slash product partners that we have. And I want to have you guys understand that there's always a contest going on. You need to always know who's got a contest going. Right now, can anybody tell me who has a contest going? What company? The company has a contest, a Hawaii contest for next year, and also the Europe contest. But what company right now has a product provider contest going?
I can tell you.
Kimberly,
Nationwide has
who is it? I can't hear you.
You beat me. Nationwide, they just sent out the rankings not too long ago.
Nationwide.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Nationwide has a contest going on. And you need to know the contest and go win the contest, because there's two parts of the contest always. One is personal production, which all of you can go win. And the other side is off of base shops, which you guys can go win also. But these things are fantastic. Now, I'm here in San Antonio because F&G, one of our great product providers, has a contest. And what's pretty cool is out of all 15 of the contest winners, 13 of them were from our team, which was a pretty cool deal. And I was very proud of that. But think about this. These companies are ready to put you up. Here, they flew us to San Antonio. If you've never been to San Antonio, go sleep on San Antonio. It's an amazing city. It has a Riverwalk. It's phenomenal. It's got lots of history, beautiful hotel. They put us up at a beautiful resort, and it was an amazing thing. And we had chances to go go and being able to go learn from each other and have a great session when you're with your people. But I want you guys to win these contests. You know, Kimberly, you've really enjoyed some of the other contests. We just Corbridge, which is AIG, has taken us to a few good places. This is recently we went to a Montage Resort, which is actually the resort where Justin Bieber got married. So it's that level of an event place. And they took us there to a Montage in Palmetto Bluff, which unfortunately for Kimberly's different where they live, but they live in a beautiful place. So it's near Charleston. And it was an amazing thing, guys. I mean, you do things you never even thought about even doing. They give you experiences. And I want you to listen on this. This is the thing I took from this event. When you're talking to people about this business and about recruiting them or about our products, it's got to be an experience. People got to want to be part of it. They got to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. So I want you to win these contests. You know, I know that Kimberly, talk a little bit about how you felt on some of these contests.
Yeah, I think I pinch myself all the time, right? To really think that this is our life. We've been in this business and this industry for 23 years. And, my first plane ride was on my honeymoon. So if any of you guys think I grew up as a world traveler, I did not. But since that, since we said yes to this business and to this industry, we've literally been all over the world. And some of our favorite trips are Hawaii every single year, but Corbridge with Montage. We did the F&G event last year in Fort Lauderdale, or 2 years ago, I think, in Fort Lauderdale at the Four Seasons, and Maui at the Four Seasons. We've been to Alaska, we've been to Portugal, all with companies through this business and through this industry. And, obviously we're in Vermont for the next 2 weeks. Zoom is amazing. We can live and work wherever we want to, which is a magical part about our business. But when you go somewhere and they literally put you up in some of the nicest hotels in the world and they pay for it, it's a little different. It's pretty special. So I love those events. I love the travel. I love the relationships of showing up and it's like your best friends are there and it's just a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And I want to make sure that you guys know these things are out there and go win these. You can't win them if you don't know about them. And we're going to do a great job each week making sure you know what contests are going on and how you can win this contest. And we're going to have contests within contests. We're going to go on and make, do some other things within our team, but go win those events. You feel different. I watched a couple of guys that we have is Herson, one of our great new superstars, and his legendary new leader, Unai, and then another leader that they have, Tatiana. This was the first time they ever won anything with the company. Their eyes were this big. They were just listening, and it was that big of a thing. And I want that for each one of you guys. So excited to have you there. It's an incredible, incredible opportunity going on. So right now, it's a nationwide contest. And the result of that contest would be you going to Scottsdale, Arizona, which is as beautiful as anywhere you've been also in February. So excited to have you guys do that. And now I want to just take for just a second and let you know that next week, we're going to have the F&G training team on with us. We've got them set up to do training. They have a tremendous product set up. They've done a great job in upping their game, and they updated that, and we'll go over that with you next week so that know that that's going to be here next week. But I want to talk just real briefly before I turn it over to Kimberly, is about our 4 main product providers. Now we have many others, and I know Ethos is on the cusp of making a big rise, and we have American Amicable and some other secondary things that we do. But I want to talk for a minute about Corbridge, which is AIG, Nationwide, North American, and Nexus, which is all part of that, and then F&G. These guys are phenomenal products. And what's cool is that in companies is that different leaders have different styles. If you go look within our team, you got some people that do most of their business with North American, many that do most of it with Corbridge, many of them that do most of it Nationwide, and the same thing with F&G. It does not matter. Find what you're comfortable with, the leadership style you're comfortable with. They all have world-class products. Matter of fact, if you just take IULs in particular, I could have Matt Salvatore go through their IUL, and you'd be convinced this is the best IUL in the world. Then he gets through, and Al's going to get up and talk about a Nexus and Nationwide, and you're going to think that New Heights is the greatest product that has ever been on earth. And then when they're through, North American's going to talk to you, and you're going to think that they have the best product. And if you had sat through what I sat through the last 2 days, you would all be thinking F&G had the greatest product. And that's a great situation to be in. To have those powerful companies, and make sure you get acquainted with them. Don't get off into the weeds. Now, I don't know how many of you guys watch Leadership Live on Monday nights. This should be something all of you either watch live or that you're going to go watch during the week.
And
This
they
past
are in the
week,
back
Rory
office
and I
now.
they
They
are in the
weren't
back
for a
office.
while,
Thank
but they
you.
are now. Yep.
They're there, and Andrea and Rory were on, and they're fantastic. And they have 2 new team members that are just great new leaders on the rise. But I think listening to the power of Rory on there, all of you need to go listen. And if you have a chance to listen from our great producers, people who have been able to go out and get good at sales, people like Greg Smith or people like Zach and Kimberly, or whether it's Rory and Andrea and it's Kathy. When you hear these guys who are good producers, they're story driven, they're vision driven. And Roy just wrote a $3 million annuity and basically didn't even go over an illustration with the client on it because he sold the dream of what the product was. And I want you to develop that ability. I want you to practice that over and over and over so that you are able to go develop that ability to tell stories and the ability to know how to go convey. Many of you are all not calling on people because you think there's something that you don't know. What you don't know is that you already know what you think you don't know. And that is the number one thing. I know that James's birthday was last week and I had a meeting with my dad. And the number one thing he came out of that meeting with was he already knew what he needed to know. It's the number one thing Hubert told him. And that's where you guys are at. So get great at talking and telling stories and selling the dreams and understanding the feature and the ideas of what a concept is. For example, an IUL simply is a place to have the Be Your Own Bank's philosophy where you can go put money away, an unlimited amount that you want to, whatever you can go, feel comfortable doing. Put money in an account where you're covered, have living benefits, and never have to pay taxes when we go to your money. That's what it is. It's just that simple. Literally, you can sit down and say, "Hey, do you want 2, 4, 8%, or do you want that tax now, tax later, or tax never?" And that's your whole story. That is the story of an IUL. Right now, being able to go sit down with somebody and say, "Hey, what's the most important thing to you in retirement?" And if it's safety, here's the product for you. That's what Rory does. Every time people they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get where I am." He's gonna tell me the secrets of selling annuity. And I know people are somewhat disappointed, waiting on him to come up with some secret way of coming up with it. It's not. It's just more presentations, and do not ever discount enthusiasm and power and conviction, because that's what he brings to the table in multiples, and that's what you have to go have as you go forward. So, any comment on that, Dr. Kimberly or Kathy, even?
James has his hands raised.
James, what?
Hand raised.
Yeah, no, I just want to jump in real quick with your mentioning of my sit down with Hubert. And what Hubert basically said is there's three types of people. Person number one says, "I know not that I know not." Person number two says, "I know that I know not." And number three, we all need to strive to get to is, "I know that I know."
Yeah. And that's a self thing. And let me tell you something else about human nature. Your everything in you wants to believe you don't know something that you need to know, but that's your excuse. And if you call BS on yourself, then things are going to change on that. So any thoughts on that? I know Zach and Kimberly certainly feel that way as far as laying out the weeds. And you know, obviously you need to know some things for yourself, but don't go throw that up on everybody.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. I think that's what we try to stress and talk about often, right? Is that our conversations to people need to be at third grade level or lower, not because they aren't educated or they can't handle it. They just simply don't understand how money works. And money for most people is uncomfortable. And if we make it uncomfortable and we make it fancy and they feel like we're some like brain surgeon or astrophysicist explaining this to them, then they're intimidated, and most people don't do anything because we're dealing with middle America, right? That's who we're dealing with most of the time. So I think, and you've heard it from Joe Ross, you've heard it from Matt, you've heard it from us, you've heard it from obviously Rory, everyone. Stories sell, facts tell. You don't need to pull up an illustration if you're selling a guaranteed income annuity. You need to tell them what their guaranteed income is. It doesn't matter at all what the performance is. If their income is guaranteed, and I can tell you what it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, whenever you want to pull it, that's all that matters because that's what we're building. And I think that's a really, really huge point. I don't know if someone's
Absolutely.
talking on your end or maybe, but
No.
another
Okay.
thing I wanted to just mention really quickly, and I saw this come in on my email, but you know, Annexus every Thursday night at 7 p.m. they are doing a webinar literally every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's on your email for understanding the IUL, right? IUL one-on-one. If it doesn't matter if you don't sell a Nexus or Nationwide, or if you don't sell North American, or if you don't sell Corebridge, the concepts are universal, right? They're the same regardless of what company that you're listening to. So until you know that presentation like the back of your hands and you can articulate it and understand what you're looking at so you can make it simple, get on those calls. They're there for you. They've been created for you to empower you, to give you the confidence to go out and speak to people.
Hey, and in this case, this call was literally created for us from Vegas, sitting around a table. Those guys put this on. It's fantastic. You guys support these things, and just hearing them, having them on in the background, even when you're doing something else, getting people to listen. They're all fantastic. So, all right, guys, great stuff. thank you for paying attention thus far. And Kimberly's going to take it home, going over what we call our core financial concepts. And I love this. It all comes down to fundamentals, blocking and tackling. And this is really what it's all about. So, Kimberly.
Awesome, thank you. Before I get started with that presentation, I screenshotted this off of Instagram earlier, and I'm going to read it to you because I think it's the story we should be telling and the conversation we should be having. And so basically, it says everyone's trying to figure out where to invest $10,000 when they should be figuring out how to turn $10,000 into monthly income. You can have $100,000 in stocks and crypto and still be broke because none of it pays you when you're not working. Freedom doesn't come from what you invest in, it comes from what pays you every single month. $100,000 in Bitcoin won't change your life, but an extra $5,000 a month in cash flow will. So focus on cash flow first and then worry about where to invest. So as we're out there talking to people, whether it is the income story from North America, I'm sorry, from Nationwide and Annexus and that guaranteed income piece, or it's our business opportunity, you guys understand that. If I have $1 million in the bank, using the 4% rule, which says I can draw confidently 4% from that account every single year for a 30-year period of time without outliving my money, without outspending my money, what is that? How much is that going to pay me? What is 4% of $1 million?
40,000.
40,000.
40,000.
How many people do you know that have $1 million sitting there that they can literally drain at a 4% interest rate? Very, 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 very few. How many policies would you have to write at the beginning contract level in HGI to make $40,000 a year? Maybe 2 a month? Maybe? What's more possible? What's more probable? That you're going to save $1 million so then you can pull $40,000 a year, or that you can create an income that's going to pay you $40,000 a year just doing simple, basic things, right? So as you're talking to people, I really want you to understand that. I'll post that later today, maybe in our WhatsApp or whatever, just so you can see that. But income matters more than your investment. Once your income's set and you know what that's going to be, invest the rest of it. Fine, have fun with that. But creating income is what we should all be about. So I want to show you guys, in our back office, let me see if I can pull it up really quickly too. In our back office, under helps and resources, and I'll show you this. Let me log back in really quick. I'm assuming YouTube sees all my email stuff back and forth too, but that's okay. All right. When we log into our back office and we go to the screen and we go to help and resources, right? On the left-hand side, there's a tab that says Marketing Materials Digital. If you click on that, you've got plenty of PDFs that have been created for you to go out there and share with your team, or also to share, with clients. How to Win the Money Game is a great client piece. Financial Solutions for the 21st Century is a great client piece. So today we're going to go over this core financial concepts, and I'm going to go over that with you. But for those of you guys, think out of the box, right? Go on Instagram Live and do core financial concepts. Go see a realtor's office and give them some financial education and present core financial concepts. Go to your BNI group. I don't know if that's allowed at those places, but whatever. Find places that you can give these presentations. I was a school teacher, right? Zach was a school teacher. I said, hey, I'd like to give a 20-minute speak about how money, or talk about how money works to our during our faculty meeting. Can we do that? There are plenty of places that will allow you to come in and give free education to their staff, right? Because it makes them look better too. All of you guys that go out and sell benefits, like company benefits, or you help enroll people in that benefit world, or you sell health insurance or whatever, when you have corporations that you're dealing with already, create an opportunity to have a conversation. And when you do, all you have to do is deliver value. And delivering value is education. And this education piece has been created for you. It is simple, it is compliant, and it gives them enough information where they say, hey, that sounds like a really great idea. I'd love to sit down and learn more about whatever. Right? That little brochure that we pass out at the end of the BOPS that says, I'm interested in your business opportunity, or I want a free financial review. Great. Let's talk to them about their free financial review. Things like that are so easy. So I'm going to go through this presentation with you guys so you have it, you know what it says, you know how it works. Let me move all you out of my way. Close these things, make it pretty for our screen. Okay, now I think you probably see it in full screen mode. Let me move this one last little guy here. Okay. All right, so this presentation is called Core Financial Concepts. Obviously, as a company, we create wealth for families. Core Financial Concepts means core financial concepts, right? The basics. Everyone needs to know the basics, and everyone wants to know how money works. So step number one is to take control of your money. Pay yourself first. When you're looking at your bills every single month and you're like, oh, I only have $200 left at the end of the month, instead of waiting until the end of the month to have that $200, make that an auto draft from your checking account into your savings account as soon as your money hits the bank, right? Because now you've paid yourself first. You've put yourself and your family before any other obligations that you've had. And if you have to worry about something, don't worry about what you're paying yourself. Step number two, which is number one in our financial process, is earn additional income. Most people's problem isn't that they can't manage their money. It's that they don't make enough, right? They need to make more money. So talk to them about our business. Talk to them about building a part-time second business, whatever it is. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what you do. I don't care if you're an Amazon reseller, you cut people's yards, whatever. Everyone needs to make more money. So start thinking about that, right? I heard Aki say one time, most people spend 95% of their time focused on their budget, right? And a lot of that we can't really control. Yes, we can cut out Netflix or Hulu, or we could eat out a little less, but that's not going to significantly change our actual income. But they spend 5% of their time looking for ways to make extra money. Well, if I can't significantly change the outcome of my budget, spending 95% of my time on it, I should spend the time that I spend on my budget, right? So my budget should have 5% of my time, and 95% of my time should be out learning, finding new ways to make more money, period. Adjust your lifestyle. Understand the difference between your wants and your needs. If you really want to take this vacation with your family, but your needs are, you can't pay your mortgage, you probably should pay your mortgage first, right? Understand the difference between both of those and set priorities and develop a disciplined budget plan. Ultimately, if you make more money, you can solve some of those issues, but until you do, adjust your lifestyle. Avoid the credit trap. We have more credit card debt in our country now than we've had ever in the history of our world, which is crazy. It's scary. It's terrifying. So what's going to happen when that bubble bursts? Because that bubble will burst. What's going to happen? So avoid paying for things with plastic money. If you want to go out to dinner tonight, but you can't afford to pay for it with your actual cash, then don't go out to dinner. If you need to buy something that you've got to put on credit, give it 90 days and see if you still actually need it, right? Sometimes it's necessary, but most of the time it isn't. Most of the time it's convenience. But also change your way of thinking. Change that financial paradigm and change the way you think about money. Think about paying yourself first. Thinking about earning extra income. Think about adjusting your lifestyle. Think about, should I put this on my credit card tonight? Change your thinking when you're thinking about money. Oop, just kidding. Okay. These are the 6 steps to financial security. And when we sit down with people as clients, we go through every single step of these and give them recommendations and solutions in each of these areas. Step number 1 is increasing cash flow that we've already talked about. Step number 2 is debt management. When I ask people, what's their biggest goals and dreams, debt management is always in the top 3. It's always, I'd love to be out of debt, right? Discipline comes with that, but also education comes with that. Step number 3 is emergency emergency fund. Make sure you have enough money in a liquid account, which means that you can access it in case you had an emergency, so your credit cards don't become your emergency fund. That's huge. Step number 4 is proper protection, making sure that your family is taken care of in the event of your death, but also in the event of a diagnosis, right? Most people can't afford a diagnosis. We have we have insurance on our cell phones and our cars and our homes, but a lot of people don't have it on their lives, and that's their biggest income producing asset that they have access to. Why not? Because people haven't told them and people haven't educated them. I really truly believe that steps 1 through 4 is the foundation of our financial life. And it's really like building a house. You're not going to build a house without making sure that your footers are set properly and your foundation is in place. Because if you do, the walls and the beautiful decorations you have inside and the brick and the roof and all that, it's just going to come crumbling down with an improper foundation. So steps 1 through 4, putting that proper foundation in place gives that stability that when we go out and build wealth, which is what everybody wants, right? They sit down, they say, hey, can you make me rich? When they go out there and they build wealth, if there is an issue, it doesn't all come crumbling down around them because they weren't prepared for an emergency fund or for life insurance or a diagnosis. So build wealth is step number 5, and then finally preserving wealth is step number 6. There's nothing sadder to me that, someone that's really done well and worked their entire life to create this beautiful estate for their family, and they just didn't plan. They didn't take that one last step to make sure that everything that they created for their family wasn't something that was going to continue on to the next generation, because they didn't preserve that wealth. So with our clients, we literally go through every single step, every single one of these steps when we sit down with them to give them the education on what we see in those areas. If you're great in those areas, we'll say, awesome, you're great here. But we'll show you the gaps in the other areas. Financial prioritization. So you hear Matt Salvatore all the time talk about offensive planning and defensive planning, right? So in this example, it's kind of like building that foundation on your house. Defensive planning is, at first, we're going to protect what we have, period. Think about a football game, right? If the other team scores, defense better be set up properly very quickly, because if not, somebody's going to score again, right? So exactly the same thing here. We protect what we earn. We protect what we own. We protect what we owe, and we protect those that we love. After that, we go into offensive planning, where we can make major purchases, emergencies, college education, retirement. And then we go into aggressive planning, where we prioritize our goals, and we're like, oh, maybe I need to diversify to reduce my risk. Maybe I need to maximize my qualified plan contributions up to the max. Up to the match. Maybe we need to overpower inflation. Now I go to my progressive planning. I pass along my assets with estate conservation, charitable giving, tax efficiency, and business continuation. And then finally, my wants are at the top. I know it says my needs, but we had that changed to your wants. But that's how that should work, right? That's how our prioritization should work. We should start our way at the bottom and work our way up to the top as we're thinking about long-term planning in our financial life. This is one that you guys hear a lot, right? Whether you hear it, the X what? X curve, the butterfly chart, the wealth flow formula, whatever you call it, it's exactly the same thing. And so basically, it's the concept that your needs change over time, right? In the beginning, if you look at the blue, in the early years, you may need a lot of coverage because we're protecting our children. We're protecting our debt, right? Because we just bought a brand new house to house all our kids, and life's expenses. So I probably have some credit cards, got my mortgage, I got a new car, sending my kids to college, all these things, right? So in the early years, I might need a lot of coverage, but I also should have decreasing responsibility in the later years that I may not need quite as much, because my later years, we're protecting our wealth because our children have been grown. Hopefully we don't have as much debt. If we look at the green, in the beginning, we may not have a lot of money, which is why term insurance is so magical when we're younger, right? We don't have a lot of money and we have a huge need for life insurance. But as we get older, we have the law of building equity. Hopefully our assets have grown and the values of those have grown, and you better have money. So later in those years, we're protecting our wealth, we're protecting our grown children. We've got lower debt, our mortgages are paid. So now we're looking at tax-free lifetime income and how to pass from one generation to the next. And life insurance can help us in both of those areas. When we talk about how should we buy life insurance, I love this slide and this educational piece. Buy term and the rest in perm. What does that mean? So first of all, a permanent policy, like in your mind, you've heard whole life, index universal life, guaranteed universal life. I'm going to call that out for them because I want them to understand that it's not just whole life. And most people think it's whole life. So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I want a whole life policy, I'm like, I think you mean permanent. So let's call it a permanent policy. And then we'll talk about the difference between term and permanent, because there's really two types of life insurance, right? Term that's going to go away at the end of a term, or permanent that's going to last forever. And then there are multiple types of permanent policies. But ultimately, this slide is talking about the need for that high amount of coverage in the early years, right? I've got my mortgage, I've got my debt, I've got my income. If I've got a baby, I should probably multiply it by 20 years, not by 10, because we're going to need money when my kid is 10, right? I've got my kid's college education. I need a lot of life insurance when I'm younger. But I also need to start preparing for my future because I have time, right? And I have maybe a little bit less money, but I still have time to allow that to compound. And later at retirement, I want to capitalize off the tax-free cash value accumulation of life insurance benefits. And I want that income tax-free withdrawals from those loans to supplement my retirement income. Obviously, they both have living benefits, but in my opinion, it's if possible, if people can afford it, it's best to do both, right? I've got a term policy that carries my big death benefit and my what if I die. And obviously the living benefits about what if I get sick, but I also have that permanent policy that says, hey, I'm not going to die or get sick. I'm going to just, plan for my future and have this money to pull from as retirement income. But if I do get sick, then I have that term policy that has no cash value that I can pull from, which is huge, right? Instead of affecting my retirement plan down the road, let me borrow from that policy or not even borrow, let me pull money from that policy that doesn't have cash value to protect me at that moment. That's what it's there for. That's why it's the beauty of having both if your clients can afford it. If they can't, then it doesn't make sense to do term first and build up for the other. Okay. I just kind of went over this just off the top of my head, but life insurance and your insurability. How much life insurance do you need? And when you're talking with a group and you go through this, it blows their mind. On our team, every single time I teach our team to do a dime. And I'm going to tell you when I meet with you, this is your debt. This is your income times 10 is going to be the minimum that we start with. This is your mortgage balance, and this is your kid's education. So your total death benefit need is $1.5 million in this example. I will sell that $1.5 million 9 times out of 10 because I educated them and I showed them. Our human nature, right, goes in and says, I know it says you need 1.5 million, but I think, because it's my job to decide what you can and can't do, you can only afford 500,000. So that's what I'm going to quote you. And we have to fight against ourselves for doing that, right? And go back and say, hey, listen, I'm going to show you this $1.5 million because this is what you need. And then if they ask me for less, of course I'll sell them less, but I'm going to show them what they need and solve their problem first. And again, most of you guys know the dime, but that's the method that we use to decide how much life insurance someone needs. If you don't
Hey,
know,
Kimberly,
yeah,
real quick. One thing I was going to say was that in the F&G meeting, they really reemphasized the point of being able to go and ensure insurability, how important that is.
explain that.
One of the things that over half the production that we do in F&G does is on juvenile policies, which I was pretty surprised about that. But they just are a huge crusade on protecting insurability, which means your insurability in a lot of cases is one of the most valuable weapons you have.
Absolutely.
And if you have it, there ought to be a profound sense of urgency to use it, especially the older you get. Because what we mean by that is that if you become uninsurable, you can't get the coverage you need. One, to protect your family, but two, to create the tax-free, status that you need for a life insurance policy. So, F&G in particular, I believe they go up to $1 million on kids. That's one of their big fortes, that
And
not
that's
that
a
ever,
big story that that Al Suckerman has,
yeah,
right? From
yeah,
an Nexus and
right,
his kid, and
yeah,
putting that policy on him young. So I definitely agree. Maria, did you have a
yeah,
question?
No, I just want to compliment that and Jody say, and the importance of us have the sense of urgency with all our friends and the people that we know. I just recently have a case of he's like 40 years old. They just have a baby last year. And I was insisting, you need to get together because he's the only income in the life of the family. And between my traveling and his traveling, we couldn't get together. I called him and tell him, you need to come home. You have to do this. And he told me, I have to tell you, but I am in my house. I cannot talk about it. And then I found out now that I come back from Florida, her sister is one of my best friends as well. He have a colon cancer, 40 years old, and it hurt me. Then I didn't went to the house and close him, okay, before this happened. So this is not, we're not selling. This is something that we must do, Kimberly. And I'm emotional about it because it hurt me. They are
Yeah.
very close friends. So it's like my son got drowned in the lake when he was 7. It's like you don't have age.
Yeah.
When God gonna call you, He gonna call you. So this is a sense of urgency that we have to go. And if he is a close friend of you, just go to their home,
Yeah.
make it happen.
And I think, and thanks for sharing, Maria. I know that's devastating for sure. But I also think at least you said something, right? So many of us, we don't. We just say that and we're going to talk to them later or whatever. And the urgency of saying something is most important. And then obviously not pressuring, but maybe pressuring them to think about what if and to take care of that. But I mean, Maria's right, Jody's right. It's important, right? Because when it's too late, you can't fix it. You can't go backwards. So if we preserve your insurability now with a small term policy or large term policy, and you're 21 and that's all you can afford to do, and at 24 you decide you want to start investing in it, but you've had a bad diagnosis, well, guess what? You can convert a portion of that into an IUL. It's a big deal.
Hey, Kimberly, real quick, because they're gonna call me to get on this pony at some point, but I do want to mention something, just so everybody knows that we're congruent. We are working hard to have people move in one direction as far as presentation. And I want you to understand that what is in Abacus, the presentation that's in there is this presentation. It's almost word for word this. This gives you the meat and potatoes to be able to give that. So don't think like there's all kinds of multiple presentations. There's not. And I love this because what this does, and Kimberly, this does such a phenomenal job on understanding these fundamental principles. Everything that's gone over today, every one of you should know like the back of your hand. You may not have to know everything else, but everything that's on here today and everything that's in this core, the word core means the very essence of, that's probably the most important thing. So you learn this, you can either use this or you can go back and use the one on Abacus because it's just an abbreviated version of this. So it's all the same information. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, it's definitely the same information. This is designed for more of a bigger
Yeah,
conversation.
absolutely.
Not
It's
just,
great.
yeah.
Hey, Kimberly, I'm just going to be on here really quick. I always suggest, and you guys know what industry I've been in for many years, but also there are a lot of parents and grandparents that should be, in my opinion, instead of buying junk and crap for the children, is to buy these IULs for our children and our grandchildren. And I think they're very affordable on all levels, especially when they're young. So that was just a throw out that I wanted to tell you guys.
Thank you. And you know, to me, I think an IUL, especially if it's a grandparent or a parent, on a child as a alternative to a 529 plan. I mean, if you don't understand the difference between the two of those, you should go look at the difference between the two of those. But to me, that's a
Absolutely.
no-brainer. So it
I
should
agree.
definitely be a conversation when you see a 529 or that's their goal. You know, maybe they should look at a different way to do things. All right. So the next slide in this
Hey,
presentation.
Kimberly, I'm
Yep.
sorry. Last
Mhm.
thing, just since she said that, she's dead on right. That's an amazing point, and it is holiday season. So right now it's the time to maybe put out a campaign on that,
Yeah. Sounds
make it
great.
be the ultimate gift. So
Here's your
sorry.
gift. Yep. All right. All of you have heard of the rule of 72. If I'm in front of the room, I'm going to say, have any of you guys heard of the rule of 72? Some people are going to say yes because they're know-it-alls. Some people are going to say no because they tell the truth. Some people aren't going to say anything because they like to be quiet. But regardless, if they say yes, I'm going to say, then you know. If they say no, I'm going to say, let me teach you, right? But ultimately, the rule of 72 is simple. You take the interest rate that you're earning, divide it into 72, and that's going to tell you how many years it's going to take your money to double, right? So if we look at this and we say 2 into 72, it's going to go 36 times, right? So if I have $10,000 at 29, at 65, I've got 20,000, right? And then if I say 4%, 4 into 72 is going to go 18 times. So that same 10,000 is going to turn into 40,000 at age 65. If I do the same thing and say 8 into 72, that's going to go 9 times. So my money's going to double every 9 years. So instead of having 40,000, I've got 160,000, and you see the 12% as well, right? Obviously, the person with the most doubles win because you've got more money, right? So the higher we can get on our rate of return, obviously that's what we're looking for. But we're also looking for time, right? We have to have time to have things compound. And the other thing that I want my clients to know, my friends to know, my family to know is the rule of 72 is always working for you or it's working against you. I ask my clients all the time, what do you think the average rate of credit cards are in the country? And some young girl the other day was like, I don't know, like 8%, just because she didn't know, right? And I was like, try 28% or 25% or 30% or something like that. And it blows their mind, but that's the truth, right? So if that's the case, if I take 25 into 72, that means the bank's money is going to double every 2.5 to 3 years, right? So again, the bank is using that education, it's using the rule of 72 against us because their money is doubling and they understand it and they know where this is coming from. Why do you think all the buildings in downtown big cities are banks and insurance companies? Because they understand how money works and they expect us not to. This is another huge concept, and I think it matters most when we're closer to retirement, but it's really something important to understand is when does 50% cost you 100%? If I have $1,000 invested in my account and I lose 50%, think 2008, right? Now I've lost $500 because that's half of 1,000 and I have $500. If I lose 50%, how much do I have to earn to get back to where I was? Most people say, well, I have to earn 50%. Because if I lose 50%, it makes sense, right? Well, I lost 50, I get 50, I'm back at even. But you aren't because 50% of 500 is only 250, so you're only at $750. So in reality, if you lose 50%, you have to gain 100% to be back at even. So especially closer to retirement, when we're talking about people's lump sums, their life savings, their nest egg, they can't afford a 50% loss. They cannot afford a 2008 because 2008 took to 2018 to become level again, to be right back where they were in 2008. That means we call it the lost decade, right? That means that they had to work at least 10 more years to be back to the same purchasing power, and probably not because that doesn't include inflation, right? As they were when they were going to retire. Nobody wants to have that story. So it's important to understand the diversification of your investments and how risky things are and how close you are to retirement and if it's a paycheck or a play check like we talk about a lot of times. The power of indexed accounts are great alternatives to the slide before. And we can do that with both indexed annuities and indexed universal life insurance policies. The red line is like the market, right? It's going to go up and it's going to go down, and we're going to have some volatility throughout that world. And that's okay as long as we have time or it's extra supplemental money. But if we don't have time and it's all that we have, or it's not extra supplemental money, it's all that we have, then doesn't it make sense to protect our asset? I think the answer is yes. So with an indexed account, whether it's an annuity or an IUL, you're going to lock in your gains every single year. And you can see down there in like 2001, you can see when the red line starts to go down, the blue line stays level, right? And the reason it stays level is because zero is your hero. You will never lose if the market goes down past, 0%. You're not going to earn that in your account. You're just going to stay at zero. So when the market starts going back up, your account has a higher floor to start from, right? And you can see in this example from 97 to 2020, an indexed account in this example would have outperformed the market with less volatility, which is huge. People don't like volatility, especially when it's closer to retirement time. So think about that. Understand what an index means and understand what products have indexes. Here's one that's the high cost of waiting, right? So the high cost of waiting is you can pay now or are you going to really pay later? And we all know that. We could apply it to all different parts of our life, right? We could get up and we could go to the gym every single day and just go to the gym and make it happen. Or we could wait 10 years and be like, oh God, I should really go to the gym. Is it going to be harder 10 years from now or is it going to be harder today? It's going to be harder 10 years from now. Exactly the same thing in investing. So if you look at this on the left, this is someone at age 25 that says, you know what, I'm going to start today and I'm going to put $3,600 in my account for the next 7 years, and it's going to earn an 8% tax deferred, meaning I'm not paying taxes every time I earn money. So in this account, I invest it for 7 years and then I stop. I'm like, life's busy, things are crazy, I don't have the money anymore, whatever. And I stop investing in that account. At the end of that time, at age 48, I've got $128,000 in this account. So I put in $25,000 to have $128,000. If I wait 7 years and then I contribute every single year from age 31 to age 48, only then do I outpace my other one, right? So I've put $61,000 in my account and only have $131,000 in there. Would you rather do 25,000 for 128 or 61,000 for 131? I think the math is a no-brainer, but it happens from starting now. If you're not 25, it's still now, right? Start today, don't start 7 years from now because you need that time, right? The longer you wait, the less doubles you'll have. So start now and let that money continue to compound and continue to grow. Types of retirement income, you guys have heard that a lot, right? We have different options: tax now, tax deferred, tax advantaged. We have all of these options inside of our company, so it doesn't really matter to me which one you choose. It matters to me that you understand. Tax now is like a bank, mutual funds, CDs, stocks, regular, just individual, stock market accounts. You put your after tax dollars in, your growth is going to be taxed every year. You're going to get a 1099 and it's included in your state. If it's tax deferred, which is where most of our money in the country is, it's 401ks, IRAs, 403bs, things like that. You put after tax dollars in. It's got you've got your penalties, 10% if you withdraw it prior to 59 and a half. Your growth and your principal, every single penny of that money in that bucket is going to be taxed when you pull it out as income. You've got contribution limits of how much you can put in. And then, this was an older presentation, but I think some of it's still correct, where, if you withdraw excess money, then your Social Security is going to be taxed. You've got RMDs that you've got to take out of this account. I think it's 73 now. And if not, they're going to tax you at 50% of what you should have pulled out. Do you want to do that? It's also included in your estate. When you pass away with these big old 401ks or IRAs, your kids are probably in their highest income earning years of their life, and they have to distribute this income within the next 10-year period of time. What do you think that's going to do for them? It's going to bump up their tax bracket and it's going to cause them financial burdens just because you didn't plan properly. And then you've got the tax advantage piece, right? The life insurance, the cash value. I'm almost done, Stuart. texter. Sorry, I didn't realize it was one. After tax dollars in, you don't have any 10% penalty or 59.5. The growth is 100% tax-free as long as you access it correctly. No contribution limits depending on the amount of life insurance. And then, it doesn't count against you on financial aid either. And that income is considered tax-free, which is huge. Tax deferred versus tax advantage. You guys have seen this before. Tax deferred growth. Your taxes are ordinary income when you withdraw it. And then after tax deposits, you're not taxed on that growth when you withdraw it, which is the difference between your qualified accounts and your life insurance and Roth IRA pieces. Living benefits, we all understand what that means and to protect ourselves if we get sick, not just if we die. But ultimately, there are always reasons not to invest, right? In 1934, you had the Great Depression. In 1970, Vietnam spreads. In 2000, you had the tech bubble burst. In 2020, you had coronavirus. What's your reason? So the key is to give them this education, to give them this information, let them know how money works, to teach them that and say, hey, let's sit down and let's evaluate your personal financial situation and see if we need to check any boxes or fill any gaps for you. So great conversation today. I know I kind of went a little long on that presentation. I have a meeting that I'm 2 minutes late to. So I've got to jump and run. But this is on YouTube. It's recorded. It's there every single week. So if you need it or want to access it again, you have access to it.
Great job. Thank you so much. And this is the fundamentals of the fundamentals, guys. Make sure every one of you, until you know this, you don't need to know anything else. Bottom line on the production side. Thank you so much. Have a great day, guys. See you soon. And don't forget, this is on our